It was my first day. Big day. Volunteer Sawhill, on the job. The place was nice. Luxurious sofas, antique wooden doors, the grandest of pianos. I mean, they had everything. At a first glance, the nursing home was beautiful. Seemed just like home, right? But then as I strolled through the nursing home and I passed by individual seniors, I began to sense loneliness, an underlying chill. It was weird. And what was weirder was that despite the fact that I was a complete stranger to the residents, a simple smile followed by, "Hi, how are you?" was enough to put a glow to each and every one of their faces. Months went by. I got to know the residents better. Their names, where they came from, their careers, their legacy. And every time I'd come to the nursing home, I'd look up at the events calendar, and I began to sense a problem. Sure, the residents had events planned for them. They might have a musician come by and play an instrument, or a Girl Scout troop that would come and perform. But what I did not find was an environment that facilitated conversation. I did not find opportunities that allowed the seniors to connect and talk to the Girl Scouts, or even talk amongst themselves. There was no place, no time where the seniors could share their stories. And that was bizarre. Just down the street was my high school, a huge high school in Los Angeles, 4,000 kids, some of whom seemed to know what they wanted to do when they got older, what it meant to be an adult, what a career looked like. Others, myself included, were confused, asking questions like, what does it mean to be a veterinarian or join the military or be a doctor? It was bizarre. On one end of my neighborhood, there were kids looking for someone to provide them guidance and wisdom, but seemingly no one to provide that. On the other end were seniors looking for someone to share their stories with, someone to provide their wisdom to, but seemingly no one to listen. It was a huge problem. Two groups of people that could clearly benefit from interacting with one another, but remained in isolation. We need to change this. In 2016, Stanford's Department of their Center for Longevity released a 56-page report titled Hidden in Plain Sight, in which the authors highlight that those kids who come from underprivileged backgrounds, specifically those in poverty, could benefit the most from resources like seniors, because they don't have that platform at home, that role model who can guide them to a brighter future. We need to connect the children population, the youth, with our elderly. What we need is an intergenerational revolution. We need new norms, ones that do not discriminate on the basis of age. It should not be uncool to talk to old people. I believe we need to connect with our older generation, and I think we need to be innovative in how we try to do so. So my Eagle Scout project was a bit weird, right? It was one of the few troops in Troop 550 that did not involve building a physical structure. No fence for the local church, no garden for the nearby elementary school. In fact, no woods, no nails, no cost. I ended up earning my badge by teaching a weekly class to a group of students, all of whom were over the age of 75. If you take a look at the top left of the screen, you'll see a gentleman wearing red. His name is Stanley. And so one day Stanley came up to me and he said, "Sahil, look, I have a problem. I'm getting worried. For both myself and my wife, Sandra, we're starting to lose our memory. Can you help us?" And I was a Boy Scout, so I was honest with him. I said, "No, what? I'm just a kid. What could I do?" But he insisted, and you'll have to pardon the corny music in the background, but here's what he said.
We have a loss of memory, a lot of people. And even I had a stroke about 4 years ago, and my memory's now returning. And this is such an important thing. So we asked Sawhill to come and assist us in this regard. We call it brain fitness, or other names we give it, but he's helped us a great deal in so much to give us so much information about how our brain functions and the different parts of the brain that we have to work to activate and to bring about greater memory.
And so as you saw, we hatched this idea that we called brain fitness. And so I'll walk you through what one day of those many days looked like. So everyone gathered around the table as you saw, and I passed out a bunch of worksheets to all my students. And they had visual illusion on them, and I said, let's see which one of you residents can count the greatest number of faces. B said 13, Stan said 12, Sandra said 7. The real answer was closer to 36, but that's beside the point. What really matters is that they engaged with each other. They were competing with one another, and that was healthy. That took about 20 minutes, and so the next activity we started to do was I passed out information that I had learned just that prior week in class. We learned the structure of the brain cell, the neuron, and they found that fascinating. They thought that was the coolest thing ever. Wow, I didn't know that. They didn't teach me that in school. I'm glad you liked it so much. And then for the last 30 to 35 minutes of class, we read an article. That particular day, we read an article on how to be happy. And this was really cool because the seniors started to share stories about things that related to what we were reading. They talked about what made them happy, what would make them happy. This was powerful. The seniors looked for ways to share and connect. We learned from one another. We heard each other's stories. And so now that I've traveled 3,000 miles away from home, from LA to New York, I've tried to continue this program locally. This is a nursing home here locally in Albany, New York. And as you can see, the group is a bit more polarized. It's all women. In fact, at the end of class on this day, I dismissed the class and there were 4 ladies lined up in front of me, and I said, folks, the class is over. And they said, we're in line to kiss you. I said, wow, thanks. In fact, I thought in my head, that's 4 more kisses than I received all term, so thank you. So all of the stories I've shared so far have been inside the nursing home, assuming that all seniors live inside of this senior home. But that's not true, is it? There's seniors who live at home. So last summer, I started a local entrepreneurial project back home in LA. Essentially a senior concierge service. We tried to lend a hand to seniors with basic tasks, like buying groceries, or performing a simple errand at home, or even providing companionship on a walk. You see, what's interesting and cool about this project is all of our workforce, our small workforce, they're all high school and college kids. If you join me in looking at this picture, you'll see a shadow of our most loyal customer. On the right is a shadow of Doug. Doug is a retired psychiatrist. He's a medical doctor. And to date, we've walked Doug over 26 times for an hour and a half each. What's really cool is, well, I can't walk Doug most of the time, can I? I'm here. But a student that can walk him is Kenneth, a pre-nursing student. Do you see the mutualism going on here? Kenneth, a student who's pre-nursing, not only gets a flexible part-time job, but he also gets the opportunity to have insight into the health profession, raw anecdotes that he would be hard-pressed to find otherwise. Doug gets not only physical activity, but he gets validation for his career. He gets to share his experiences. He gets to share moments that made him happy. He gets to grow the next generation. And that's cool. And so while my few acts of kindness, I guess, have been helpful, they're insufficient. They're not enough. Our society has to do this together as a whole. And so I call my peers to action. Start with your grandparents. Listen to them. There's so much that you can learn from your grandparents, but I think we often take for granted. Start close, expand further. After you do that, reach out to old people who you know, maybe your neighbor, maybe your best friend's grandma, and just talk to them. Maybe it's something you took for granted but never actually made an effort to try. And then finally, when you're ready, reach out to other elderly people in your community. Reach out to nursing homes. Reach out to elders you never thought you would get into contact with. You would not believe how much the elderly population can change your life, but you have to start with your grandparents to try and build a relationship that makes you comfortable. I call educational reformists to action. You know, from elementary school to high school, there was just one time, that school tried to foster the bridge between kids and the elderly that I'm talking about today. It was in the 5th grade. We walked from my elementary school to the nursing home. We said, hi, how are you? I don't remember the rest. I do remember getting really good damn cookies. And after that, we left. That is not enough. We can do so much more as a society to create interaction between our youth and our seniors. Why can't we have seniors in our high school classes, visiting us in biology, English, or history class? Wouldn't it be cool to learn about World War II and have a World War II veteran right next to you? Our nursing homes are filled with them. Why not learn from each other? You see, I really think that there's a golden opportunity for educational reformists, but on top of that, for our nursing homes, for our organizations that hold all of our seniors together. I call to action our nursing homes. Reach out to student organizations around you, the students and high school students, elementary, middle, all of them can be your asset, your resource for your institution. Join forces. You know, America today is referred to as a graying America, a population that is continuing to grow older and older. I think that's an understatement. By the year 2060, the number of people in our country over the age of 65 will have more than doubled. We don't have a graying country. We have a silver tsunami on our hands, people. And we need to really stand together and recognize this and recognize the resource that we have available for our next generation. And if that doesn't make this topic relevant enough for you, recognize this. All of us, each and every single one of us, someday, if we're lucky, will turn old. And I ask you to ask yourselves this. How would you like to be treated when you turn old? Would it not be with some love, respect, and appreciation for what you did, for the legacy of your career? Educational revolutionary Sir Ken Robinson said in his own TED Talk, innovation is hard because it means doing something that most people do not find very easy to do. And admittedly, working with seniors is not something that a lot of people find easy to do. But you bet yourself it's worth the risk. Start with your grandparents. Start close. Expand further. There is a lot that can be learned from each other. And so one of the central themes for this sort of TED Talk conference has been not only innovation, but also imagination. And so I thought I'd close with a short verse that I wrote earlier this week. As a society that takes pride in being a modern developed nation, it is our moral obligation to end the rise of age-based fractionation. We must connect the young and the old. Turning frail does not mean turning rotten. Turning 65 does not mean that you should be forgotten. So let us remain timeless as a society and encourage intergenerational engagement and make it such that it's common. Thank you.